Radio Unscripted, AM 1700 WRCR and WRCR.com.
The following program is furnished by its producer, host, and sponsors.
I need a sign to let me know you're here. All of these lines are being crossed over the atmosphere.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Angel Quest with Karen Noe.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Angel Quest show. Today's show is sponsored by Ski Barn Quality Outdoor Furniture. It's what we do in the summer. Summer's here and it's time to take your entertaining and dining outdoors. At Ski Barn, we believe that your outdoor living space should be as fabulous as the space inside your home. Our knowledgeable decorators are here to help you transform your outdoor living space. We have 4 outdoor furniture locations with the largest in-stock selection of seating, dining, fire pits, umbrellas, cushions, and grills. Come in now for great pricing and free local delivery. Your purchase is backed by Ski Barn's 40-plus years of commitment and personal service. Quality outdoor furniture at Ski Barn in Paramus, Wayne, Lawrenceville, and Shrewsbury. Check us out at skibarn.com. Ski Barn, the goods, the people, the passion. Hi, this is Karen Noe, and I'm very excited that Garnet Schulhauser is my guest today. His first book, Dancing on a Stamp, was published in 2012. In Dancing on a Stamp, Garnet recounts how his life changed dramatically one day when he was confronted on the street by a homeless man named Albert, who was actually a wise spirit in disguise, an emissary from the spirit world. This seemingly chance encounter launched a provocative dialogue with Albert, who disclosed startling truths about the cycle of reincarnation on Earth and the afterlife that awaits us all. Garnet's second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit, describes his next encounter with Albert, who guided him on a series of astral adventures to visit the spirit side, the Akashic Records, distant planets with fascinating life forms, and a human civilization that made the shift to the new Earth. His third book, Dance of Heavenly Bliss, continues the saga of his astral trips with Albert, who takes him to meet Gaia, the consciousness of Mother Earth, 2 of Earth's mystical creatures, and a human civilization on another planet that is ruled by women. On the spirit side, he met many fascinating souls who told him about their lives, including Moses, Jesus, and his mother Mary. These trips were designed to inspire humans to appreciate the diversity of life in the universe and encourage us to love and respect one another, Mother Earth, and all creatures who share our planet. Hi, Garnet. How are you today?
Hi, Karen.
Thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be back on your show one more time.
And we had stuff that we didn't cover on the last show, so we're going to do a little bit of that, and then we'll go right to your new book, Dance of Heavenly Bliss, if that's
Sounds
okay.
Good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So your first book, Dancing on a Stamp, describes your first encounter with your spirit guide, Albert. Can you tell us how that contact began?
Well, it was back in 2007. I was still practicing law then, Karen, and I was strolling down the street one day when suddenly, out of the shadows, a homeless man just jumped out in front of me and stopped me in my tracks. And he looked like a very typical homeless person with had long, stringy hair and a scraggly beard and dirty, slept-in clothes. And he smelled like a dead fish. So he was truly like so many of the homeless people I had encountered before on the street. But instead of going around him like was my usual tactic, I stood there frozen in my tracks because he had these amazing, dazzling, sparkling blue eyes that were penetrating deep within me, and I felt that he was looking right down into the depths of my soul, and I felt he knew everything about me. And at the same time, his gaze was sending me this wave of pure, unconditional love that was infusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security and well-being. It was an amazing feeling I'd never experienced before. So I stood there basking in the gaze of this man like a deer caught in the headlights. And then eventually he broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" Then he promptly disappeared into a nearby store. And when I finally collected my wits, I decided to go in the store to try to find him. And I did. Went in the store. He was nowhere to be seen. I went back out onto the street, and I marched up and down for several blocks trying to find him, but he had seemingly disappeared into thin air. So the very next day, I resolved I had to find this man. So I came back to the same street at the very same time of day, and I walked up and down hoping to spot him. And eventually I found him sitting all alone on a bench. And I walked up to him and I said, "Who are you, and why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "I'm a soul just like you, and I'm here to answer your questions and help you on your journey." And so that was the beginning of a dialogue I had with this man that went off and on for several months. And I found out his name was Albert, and he was really one of my spirit guides in disguise. And he told me that I was the only person who could see him in physical form as the homeless man. And I could actually see him, and I actually felt him, and I touched him. But he said that anybody else walking by the street that day would have seen me sitting all alone on a bench, basically talking to myself. And so after the first 3 encounters with him, when he showed up in my life as the homeless man, he then, after that, he was just a voice in my head, and we communicated by telepathy.
Right.
That's mainly how we carried on our conversation, was a telepathic dialogue. And so during the course of that, he revealed many startling revelations about life, death, the afterlife, God, all the big questions in life, most of which of his revelations flew in the face of what Christian holy men had been preaching for centuries. And I knew all about that because I was raised as a Roman Catholic, so I knew what the Roman Catholic Church taught me about all these matters. And a lot of Albert's revelations were clearly polar opposites to what I had learned as a child. So it was a very interesting dialogue, but I knew immediately, as soon as I began the conversation with him, that he was the real McCoy. He was the real thing. He was my spirit guide, and I felt in my heart that what he was telling me was the real truth.
Yeah.
And I felt very comfortable about that. And then when he surprised me early on in the conversation by saying, I didn't come here just to satisfy your curiosity and answer your questions. I want you to write a book about my revelations so they will be available to everyone. And so that resulted in after some reluctance, because I had never even dreamed of writing a book before, Karen, but he was gently persuasive.
Yeah.
And eventually he convinced me that was my new mission in life, was to write a book about his revelations, about our dialogue. And that resulted in my first book, Dancing on a Stamp, which was published in 2012.
It's a wonderful book. And for those who are listening, you came on the show a while back. You could go to my website, KarenNoe.com, and then click on past Angel Quest shows, and you could just go with Garnet Schulhauser, the other show. So you talked about all of that. It was very fascinating. But this is where I want to go. Your second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit, it talks about a series of astral adventures you took with him. And I wanted to talk about your visit, the ETs monitoring the Earth. We tried to talk about it last time. We ran out of time. If we could talk about it now.
I'm sorry, talk about which, Karen?
The ETs monitoring the Earth.
Oh, yeah. On one of my astral trips, he actually took me to an orbiting spacecraft manned by extraterrestrials, very intelligent race, and we went inside the spacecraft, and there. The creatures there were very intelligent. We communicated by telepathy, and they were from a star system many light years away from Earth. And they had been monitoring, their race had been monitoring our planet for eons, ever since the inception of life on our planet. And their job was basically to monitor what was going on, to try to give us help and guidance, subtle help whenever they could, by giving us some flashes of intuition here and there to help us make quantum leaps in terms of our technology and so on when we were ready to handle it, at that sort of stage. And they were very benevolent. They really wanted the human race to succeed, because they had watched in the past some of our previous advanced civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria rise up to great heights and then crash and burn. And they didn't want our current civilization to end up in the same way. So they were very concerned, but they were restricted in what they could do. They couldn't just use their superior technology to wipe out all of our weapons and stop all the violence. They had to sort of let...
I wish they could.
Yeah, I wish they could. But they said, and they certainly could, they had the capability, but they weren't allowed to do so. And so they had to sort of watch helplessly as we went through all the wars and conflicts and everything else that has characterized our history over the last while. But so it was very interesting. and they said they were just one of the races that has been monitoring Earth for a long time, and they all had the same purpose: to try to help us wherever they could, and hope that we will be able to sort of come out of the darkness and find the light and find the path to spiritual enlightenment, which is where we all really need to head.
I absolutely agree. Okay, so let's get to your latest book, Dance of the Heavenly Bliss. How did that come into beginning? Into beginning?
Well, that was just another set of astral trips with Albert, and how they always occurred was that, in fact, the first time that it happened is I woke up in my bedroom one night, and I saw this ghost-like figure standing in the doorway of my bedroom, and as it moved closer, I could see it was my old friend Albert. He was in astral form, and he said, he had come to take me on a series of astral trips to the spirit side, other places in the universe, and other places in our planet, because he wanted to show me things that I could write about in my next book. And his purpose was to teach me and all humanity a lesson, or give us a nugget of wisdom to help us, have more fulfilled journeys and help us sort of find the light towards spiritual enlightenment. So that was his purpose. He had a very well mapped out agenda, and basically he would reach out towards my physical body and pull my astral body out, and then away we'd go, and we just sort of rise up through the ceiling and up through the clouds and so on. When you're traveling astrally, of course, you don't have no physical attributes. You don't have any substance to you in a physical sense, so you can pass through walls and doors and whatever without any problem. I mean, you end up, you're basically in your natural form as a being of energy. And so I had these trips with Albert. He would guide me wherever he thought it was appropriate for me to go. And as I said, he had a very set agenda for me, and so I just followed him. And so I wrote about all those adventures. The first adventures were in my second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit. And in my third book, a new set of adventures where we went to a number of fascinating places. And I can certainly get into that whenever you're ready to.
Sure, I'd love to hear all about it.
Sure. Well, the very first trip we made, again, was back to the spirit side to visit with the Council of Wise Ones, which is a body of very wise and advanced souls whose job it is to oversee all the incarnations on our planet. And there I had another meeting with the chair of that council. Her name was Sophia, a very wise and compassionate soul. And she again reiterated the message she had given to me in our first meeting, which was that they're very concerned about the state of affairs on Earth, with the place that humans currently are. And she was really concerned that we needed to get over this crucial junction in our development before it was too late, before we ended up destroying ourselves and all other life on our planet, which they did not want to have happen. And she said, we've developed very advanced technology to make our lives better and easier, but our spiritual and emotional intelligence has not kept pace. And so that there's too many of us who still allow our negative emotions to rule our lives, and that causes a lot of violence and other conflicts in our planet. So she reiterated that she wanted me, along with all their other messengers, to take the message back to my fellow humans that we really needed to stifle our negative emotions, the bad ones like fear, anger, hate, and greed that cause so many problems, and learn to embrace love and compassion for ourselves, for other humans, for the other animals on our planet, and for Mother Earth herself. And so that was sort of the message she wanted me to take back, and which I've chronicled in my third book. And so then after that first meeting, Albert took me to an aquarium, a water park in California, where I had a conversation with a killer whale, an orca, who was a very sensitive, intelligent, empathetic creature, more so than most people would give them credit for. And we communicated by telepathy. And she said, she was born in the Pacific, where she could frolic freely in the blue waters of that amazing ocean, and she enjoyed that. She enjoyed being part of her pod. That all came to an end when humans captured her and locked her up in what she called her concrete, watery prison, where she said, that her trainers were kind to her, but she was forced to perform silly tricks for the spectators, who seemed to not care about her plight, and just enjoyed all the antics she was forced to perform by her handlers. And she said, we really want to, we're intelligent, sensitive creatures. We just want to live freely in the oceans. We want to live in peaceful harmony with humans. And we don't understand why humans over the years have been abusive to, her kin and to other whales and dolphins and a lot of other creatures. And for a lot of years, whales were hunted and trapped by whaling ships, and today they're still caught in our traps and poisoned by our pollution that we dump into the oceans. And she said, just very unfortunate. They really hope that humans could change their ways, change their course of action, and learn to respect the other creatures on our planet.
I hope they listen. The humans, yeah.
I certainly do too. And it was it was a tale of woe that really wrenched my heart. And I just realized that most humans do not realize how intelligent, how special, how sensitive these creatures are, and they shouldn't be treated like dumb animals, because they're very far from that.
That's
in
right.
fact, in some ways, they're more advanced than humans because they communicate with each other by telepathy, and they actually communicate with their cousins on other planets, other water planets, over many light years. And that's something that most humans have not been able to do yet. And so we're advanced in some ways, but way behind in other areas.
Amazing, amazing. So you also had a meeting with Gaia, the consciousness of Mother Earth.
Yeah, that was an amazing meeting. Albert took me to, we actually flew over to the North Pole, dropped down through the icy water, down into a cavern immediately under the North Pole. And I wondered why Albert was taking me there, because it just seemed like an empty cavern. All of a sudden I heard a voice, and it was a very pleasant, melodious voice, and it turned out it was coming from Gaia. And she introduced herself as being the consciousness of our planet, the consciousness of Mother Earth, which surprised me a bit, because I had always thought that our planet was just a conglomerate of inert molecules forming mountains and rivers and soil and so on. But our planet has a consciousness, and she was a very wise, compassionate soul who felt it was her job to try to protect the environment for all of her animals and her plants and everyone else, on Mother Earth. That was her job. She wanted everyone to live in peaceful harmony and get along. And she was concerned about the way humans have been abusing her other creatures and abusing her with their pollution. She couldn't understand why we would defile our own home by, spilling toxic chemicals into the oceans and the rivers, poisoning her soil, spilling noxious fumes into her atmosphere. She didn't understand why we would do this, because, it's going to come back to haunt us, and it's already damaging to us and to the other creatures on our planet. And so her plea to me was, why can't you humans see the light and understand that you're damaging the place you live in, and it's not good for you or for anyone else, and you really need to stop that. You need to change your ways. So it was a very heartfelt plea from her to humans to say, I love to have you on my planet, but I want you to be, more cooperative, live in harmony with the other creatures, and stop polluting, your environment, because it's not going to end up well unless you change your ways. And so it was really a sort of a wake-up call. And the surprising thing, Karen, was that she said that she has the capability of actually fighting back, which was surprising. She said, look, I can manipulate and control to some degree the natural disasters that happen on our planet, such as hurricanes, volcanoes, floods, droughts, fires.
And has she been?
Yes, and she says she has been increasing the number and intensity of these natural disasters over the last while. And you would probably notice that from all the news reports of all the natural disasters that seem to be increasing in intensity and getting worse and worse. And Gaia says, that's me. I'm trying to shoot a warning shot across your bow. I want you guys to wake up and understand that continuing on your current course is going to be a disaster for everyone. And so you really need to change your ways. And so she said, I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to harm humans, unless I have to. But if I need to increase some natural disasters, which I have been doing, I will continue to do so until the humans get the wake-up call and really get serious about changing their ways. So, very interesting conversation, and she had the similar kind of message to the killer whale is that, everything before humans appeared on the scene, everything worked in sort of perfect balance. It was a harmonious ecosystem that Gaia had, created for all the creatures on our planet. Then humans came along, and in the last few hundred years after the Industrial Revolution, we've been, been able to increase the amount of pollution that we spill out into the atmosphere and into the waters, and we've been, created weapons that allow us to dominate the other animals on our planet, abuse them, kill them for sport, and so on. And so we've become like an invasive weed that is slowly trying to strangle all the other life on our planet. So that was really a message to humans to if we're not aware of what we're doing, we should be, because we need to wake up and change our ways before we end up destroying everything on our planet. So it was a very very grim sort of message, but it really hit home that we have this wonderful, compassionate consciousness called Gaia, who really wants to have everybody on her planet live in peaceful harmony, and humans are really upsetting the apple cart in that regard.
It's such a big message. I don't know how to get this through to everyone, though. We've been talking about this for many years. Unless they could receive these messages themselves, is that a possibility? Because if they could hear and feel this themselves, they'll say this is absolutely true. I know it to be true for sure, because I receive these messages as well, and I just sometimes, they just don't get it, Anyway.
Yeah, they don't, Karen. And it would be great if Gaia's message could be heard by everyone.
That's
but
exactly
it's just not going to happen. Like, people have to be receptive to hearing this, and some people can hear the message. Psychics and mediums like yourself, Karen, have the best chance to access that kind of message. I mean, you get messages from the spirit realm all the time, and I'm sure the message is very same one that Gaia has given to me.
Yes, it is.
And so we're being bombarded with messages, but most people don't hear it because they're too busy, caught up with day-to-day activities. Their minds are too cluttered, and they don't even realize they should be listening for messages.
They have to raise their vibration in order to hear these messages, and if they're doing what they're doing, they cannot. So there's that's the problem. But there will be a day then everybody, I really believe everybody's going to be able to hear and feel all of this. They have to.
Yeah, and I think that what's happening right now, Karen, is that according to Albert, the good people on the spirit side have been really increasing the pace of messages they're sending to the people on Earth through many different channels, like people who write books, yourself, mediums, psychics, people who host radio shows and speak at gatherings, and they're really trying to blast this message out in an effort to really get more and more people, more humans, to wake up and understand what the problem is, and then work towards finding a solution. And you're right; they have to raise their vibrations in order to be able to hear these clearly.
Yeah.
And as long as they are mired in the cesspool of negative emotions, then they can't raise their vibrations.
They can't feel it, right?
You have to stifle your negative emotions, embrace love and compassion, and that's how you raise your vibrations. And for a lot of people, it just doesn't happen. And hopefully, someday, all of us will get there. But it's a bit of we have a tough road ahead of us, but we have to do our best. Because people on the spirit side are cheering for us. The ETs who are monitoring our planet are cheering for us. So we have a lot of supporters, but they can't do it all for us. We have to do it for ourselves.
You have to do it, right?
Yeah.
Now, you talk about the Akashic Records. You got to view the building of Stonehenge with the help of the visitors from the stars. Can you describe it? Yeah.
That was very fascinating. It actually, in the Akashic Records, it was a glimpse of one of my previous lives as a Druid priest on the Salisbury Plain in England around 3000 BC. And as I'm watching this in the Akashic Records, I saw that I had a dream, I had a vision where somebody came to me and said I needed to go to this certain spot on the plain the next day because I was going to get an important message. And so I did. And what I witnessed was a starship slowly descending from the sky, came down and landed on the plain. And the door opened, and out walked a human, looked very much like a human, except he was like 8 feet tall, so a bit taller than the normal human. And he told me, and we communicated by telepathy, he told me his name was Mogons. And he came from a planet in the Andromeda constellation, and he said that he wanted to get me to organize the villagers in the nearby village to help him build a navigation beacon that his people needed to help them navigate when they were in warp drive as they traveled between the stars. And this particular location was on what he called the galactic ley line, so it was an important location. And so he rolled out a parchment with some very detailed plans, and so I organized the villagers. I told them that he was a god who had descended down to get them to build a place of worship. I didn't tell them that it was a navigation beacon. And so with the help of some very technical advanced tools from Mogons, precise laser cutting tools that could cut through rock and other materials very quickly in a very precise manner, and anti-gravity wands that would basically, if you pointed it at a rock, it just basically floated, had no weight. So with the help of these tools, the villagers cut all the stones that eventually went into Stonehenge, and then used the anti-gravity wands to transport them many miles to the plane where they were assembled in accordance with the very detailed drawings provided by Mogons. And of course, it was more complete in those days. The current Stonehenge is missing some of the pillars and lintels, but it was very complete then. And when it was all finished, Mogons placed in the center a power box that basically powered up the whole structure, and it became a navigation beacon. Then he left, and years later he came back and retrieved that power box when the beacon was no longer needed. And the villagers never knew the true purpose of Stonehenge, and they thought it was a place that for them to worship the gods and hold religious ceremonies, which they did. But anyway, it's a fascinating chapter in the history of humankind. Stonehenge is very famous, as you know, and I got to see how it was built with the help of some of our friends from the stars.
Fascinating. Oh my goodness. Wow. How do you live day-to-day life after that? Experiencing all that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's difficult. It seems a very humdrum life when I come back after these trips, but I'm getting used to it, and I know, and I keep on hoping that Albert will continue to come back, because I really enjoy these astral trips, and I enjoy looking at things in the Akashic records and meeting very wise souls on the spirit side who have some very amazing stories about their lives on Earth. It's really totally fascinating, totally enthralling, and I'm just delighted to be part of Albert's astral trips.
Oh my God, yes. Here's another one. How about your encounter with the black hole?
Oh, that was probably the only encounter that was somewhat frightening to me. I had seen some things in my travels which were distressing, but and that was to teach me a lesson. But the black hole was a bit frightening, and I'm not sure why Albert took me there, but it was a black hole in the center of our galaxy. And as you know, Karen, the astronomers tell us that black holes are formed quite often when a star collapses on itself, and it leaves a very dense core of matter behind that has such a strong gravitational pull that nothing can escape, not even light. So hence the name black hole. Anyway, we went there, and as we plunged down into the core of this black hole, and I experienced something I'd never ever experienced before. I experienced total isolation and total sensory deprivation. I could not see, feel, or hear anything. I was enveloped in total blackness. And Albert, who had been with me all along, had seemingly disappeared. I couldn't see him anywhere. And so there I was, and I began to feel the panic welling up in my chest, because I thought, Albert had told me that there was no hell.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, is this hell?
I was just thinking that, yeah.
Did Albert deceive me? Did he trick me into taking me to hell, and this is hell, and would I be stuck in this netherworld forever? I mean, was this hell? So it was quite frightening until I saw a speck of light, tiny speck of light that seemed to be off in the distance. And it seemed to be moving slowly closer towards me, and as it got closer, it became larger and larger. And soon it was a large circle of light that just totally enveloped me and blacked out the darkness. And I found myself in a very strange sort of environment, Karen. I was staring at what looked like to be, based upon my memories of science in school, it looked like I was staring at an atom. There was a ball, a nucleus in the center with things orbiting around it like electrons.
Wow.
So it looked like I was right there in the middle of an atom. And then it seemed like some invisible force started pushing me away, zooming me away from that scene. And as I zoomed out, I noticed other atoms had clumped together with this first atom to form a molecule. And then as I zoomed further back, I could see that these molecules had clumped together to form a shiny black substance that sort of sparkled in the light. And then I found myself emerging from the glass eye of a teddy bear sitting on a shelf in my family room. And I was amazed, and I stood and I looked, and Albert was standing beside me, and I said, "Albert, where were you? I was frightened in that black hole." He said, "I was with you all along, but I chose to be undetectable to you because I wanted you to experience the true feeling of being absolutely alone." And he said, "You were only there for about 30 seconds of Earth time, even though it seemed like an eternity to you, but I just wanted you to have that feeling of total isolation, because then," he said, "you'll now be able to appreciate the camaraderie of other people around you and appreciate, you know, the things in your world, the people, the animals, the plants, and so on, because it was in stark contrast to what I experienced in the black hole." So it was...
Because in reality, we're all one. We're all connected.
Yes.
And you didn't feel that connection at that place.
I felt totally unconnected to anything.
That's kind of what some people on Earth feel like, even though they are connected to everyone and everything, including the animals, but they don't feel that connection. That's their own little, if you want to call it hell, here on Earth, when they don't feel that connection.
That's exactly right.
Doesn't it seem like, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It happens not to the same degree as I felt in the black hole, but that's how it happens to people. They feel isolated, they feel they're alone, and they feel totally unconnected to other people, and that really causes a lot of grief, a lot of fear, which leads to other spin-off emotions. So we really have to, you know, Albert's your point to me all along, all throughout all my contact with him, is that, you know, we're all connected to, we're all part of the source, connected to the source, connected to each other and to everything else in the universe. Too. We're connected to the animals, we're connected to the plants, to the rocks, and the whatever. And he says, to the extent that we don't feel that connection and we have this illusion of separation.
There you go. That's what it feels like. It feels that horrible.
Yeah, that's what causes all of our problems. And if we realize that everyone, when you see people walking down the street, if you understand that they are a soul just like you, having a human journey, and that you're all intimately connected to each other, then there's no room to be fearful of them, no room to hate them or fear anger or to have a desire to inflict violence on them. I mean, all that disappears if you understand who you are and who they are, and so that's really where we need to go.
Exactly. And then you had a meeting with Jesus. Can you tell us what you learned from him?
Sorry, meeting with who?
Jesus Christ?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it was. This was also very kind of a strange meeting because... not that Jesus was strange, but the circumstances were, because Albert took me to, it was basically a part of a meadow on the spirit side, and he said, "I want you to meet two souls who had very different lives on Earth. One of them was a paragon of virtue, and the other one was an evil monster." And I couldn't for the life of me understand who that might be. But I walked up to these people, and I immediately recognized them. One was Jesus Christ in a white robe, and the other was Adolf Hitler in his military uniform. And so, basically, the soul who had been Hitler in his lifetime immediately morphed back into his natural form on the spirit side as a beautiful, handsome young man named David. Wow. And he told me that he had lived his last life as Hitler. He was horribly sorry for all the mistakes and violence and deaths he had caused. And he said that his was a prime example of someone on Earth who let their negative emotions get so out of control that they just wreaked havoc on everyone around them and caused so much damage. And he said, since he's been back on the spirit side, he's very sorry for what he did, and he was very anxious to reincarnate back on Earth to try to make amends for some of the bad things that he did during his life. But the interesting thing was, he said, that back on the spirit side, he had met with many of the victims of his death camps, And there has been total reconciliation, because he said when souls return to the spirit side, whatever happened to them on earth, the bad things or whatever, stays on earth except for the memories. And so souls back in the spirit side will love each other unconditionally, no matter what they did to each other while they lived on earth. So that was a bit of an eye-opener, because a lot of people think that the bad guys on our planet should suffer some punishment once they cross over to the spirit side. Albert says it doesn't happen. There's no judgment. There's no punishment. It's just a matter of everyone recognizing that a reincarnation on earth is a learning experience, and sometimes some souls go way off course when they let their negative emotions, run amok, and that's what happened in this case. And then Jesus was sitting there the whole time, and he was smiling and nodding his head, and he said, that's one of the most difficult things for people on earth to understand, is that souls on the spirit side view events on earth much differently than the people on earth. And he said that in his case, his story about his life was that he was recruited by the Council of Wise Ones, and Jesus was and still is a master soul. He was recruited by them to incarnate on earth to try to help humanity make a few steps up the spiritual ladder and overcome some of their darkness. And so he incarnated for that purpose. And because he was a master soul, he had learned to focus his thoughts into very powerful beams of energy, which is how he caused his miracles, walking on water and turning water into wine, raising people from the dead. And he did that. He used his powers to create these miracles so that they would make a very dramatic statement for his followers. He wanted to try to, garner as many followers to his message as he could, and his miracles really helped that. And I said to him, well, if you had these powers, Jesus, why did you allow yourself to be crucified on the cross? I mean, you could have stopped that. He said, yes, I could have, but I chose not to, because I thought that my death on the cross and my subsequent resurrection would make a more dramatic statement for my followers, and I wanted to garner as many followers as I could. And he says that he hoped that people would follow the message that he promulgated when he was walking the earth, to embrace love and to black out, all the negative emotions that humans have. And he wanted people to love themselves, to love each other, equally, and love, the animals, and treat the planet properly. And that's what he wanted us to do. And he was somewhat dismayed at the fact that some of the church leaders who followed in his steps hijacked his agenda to some degree, and they instituted a bunch of structure and hierarchy and invented a bunch of rules around the Christian religion, which didn't really come from Jesus, but they were invented by men. And those men had their own agendas. They were after power and control, and so they tried to control people through guilt and fear. And Jesus was sorry that happened, but he was happy that the Christian church had done a lot of good things over the years, and that many of the foot soldiers in that religion have been preaching his message, which he really wanted to have more and more humans hear. And it was a message that a lot of masters have preached, whether it be Muhammad or Buddha or some of the other ones. They all had basically the same message. It was delivered in slightly a different way and to a different crowd, but it was all for the same purpose. And he said that he was proud of the good things that his religion had done over the years. Just hoped that it hadn't gone off track so many places. But he said that's just the way humans develop on Earth. You can't predict where it's going to go, and you have to live with it. And he said, and I said to him, well, a lot of people are hoping that you will come back for the second coming, that you will come back to this planet, help us out, because God knows we need a lot of help. And he said that he's ready and willing, and if the Council of Wise Ones asks him to do so, he will, but that hasn't happened yet. So in the meantime, he's biding his time, and hopefully, I certainly hope that one day he will come back and continue to spread his message of love to all who will listen.
Now, that would be awesome. One of his main messages was everything he did, the miracles. He said, this and more you can do. He told everyone that we could do the same thing, and we just didn't hear that, But
we didn't hear it, and we didn't quite understand what he meant or how we could get there. But you're right. Albert says that humans have the capability to do everything that Jesus did, all his miracles. We just have to learn we have to increase our vibrations
That's
and
it.
learn to focus our thoughts into strong beams of energy. And like focused thoughts are much more powerful than scattered thoughts, just like a laser beam is more powerful than a beam from a flashlight. So we have to learn how to do this, utilize more of our brain power. And he said someday we will be able to do those miracles that Jesus did, and it will be a normal course event. But we're not there yet, and we can't get there as long as we're still mired in the depths of fear and anger and hate.
Right.
And so that's our mission. So a lot of people didn't hear what he said. Those who did hear, had no idea how to get there. And we really need some more guidance. Hopefully he'll come back in a new incarnation and give us a more detailed roadmap as to how we can actually get to where he was, thousands of years ago.
Yes, yes. And then you also met with his mother, Mary. Can you tell us what she said?
She was a delightful, wise, compassionate soul. Wise beyond belief. She said that, yes, she was, in her incarnation as Mary, she was the mother of Jesus. But she had some startling things to say that would upset a lot of Christians. She said, they say I was a virgin when Jesus was born, and he was conceived by the miraculous intervention of the Holy Spirit. And she says, that didn't really happen. She says, Jesus was conceived in the normal fashion through my sexual, contact with Joseph, my husband. Mm-hmm. And so she said, I was not a virgin when he was born, and I actually had, 4 sons and 2 daughters after Jesus. And she said that this is not referenced anywhere in the scriptures. She said because the early leaders of the church decided to edit out all references, to how Jesus was conceived and to the fact that I had other children. She said, in their view, they thought I would make a better role model if I was deemed to be a virgin all of my life, And she says that's just misguided. It was, it's like, there's nothing special about virgins. They thought that if you were sullied by sexual intercourse, that you couldn't be truly godlike and holy. And she said that's nonsense because sexual intercourse is very natural for humans. It's been around forever, and there's nothing wrong or unholy about having intercourse with your partner. And so she said that was very wrong. And she said the other thing, which I got a glimpse of in my second book in the Akashic Record. She says that Jesus did get married to Mary Magdalene, and they had 2 sons and a daughter. Again, all of those references were redacted out of the early scriptures, deliberately so, because again, the early fathers of the church felt that Jesus would be more holy and godlike if he was celibate of all his life, and so that's why they did it. And she said no, he was married, did have children, and when he was crucified, she and her daughter-in-law Mary Magdalene had hidden the children with relatives. Eventually, they smuggled them out of the country to another country, where they ended up, growing up, getting married, and having children of their own. And they lived in relative obscurity, so they basically kept their identity secret. And so that, and a lot of people have, in Dan Brown's novel, The Da Vinci Code, he speculated that happened, and or Mary basically confirmed that, that was the case, that there are some progeny of Jesus and Mary Magdalene who are living together on our planet, but she declined to disclose who they were or any names or other details. So anyway, that was some very interesting revelations from her. She said that she has appeared to people on our planet over the centuries to try to inspire them with hope and love and comfort, and that's why there's many episodes of children and other people seeing visions of Mary, and she said, yes, that was me, and I had a very specific purpose of trying to bring some spiritual enlightenment to the people of our planet. And so she was an amazing, wise, compassionate soul, and I could truly understand why she was chosen to be the mother of Christ when he was born on our planet.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay, how about you also got to meet one of your guardian angels, and what did you learn from her?
Yes. She was a lovely creature. I met her in a place on the spirit side called the Hall of Angels, where Albert says angels tend to hang out. And she was a beautiful lady, didn't have wings on her shoulders, so it looked like an ordinary, but at least that's how she appeared to me. And her name was Anna Peel, and she said that she was one of my guardian angels. Excuse me. And I said to her, so, what exactly do you do as a guardian angel? And she says, well, every human on earth has, one or more guardian angels whose job it is to watch over them and make sure they do not suffer an untimely death. And she said that, like Albert had told me before, is that no one dies on earth by accident. We die when our souls are ready to leave the incarnation. But she says because there's so many humans running around on our planet exercising their free wills, sometimes events could occur which might result in an untimely death unforeseen by our souls. And in that case, if our soul is not ready to leave, our guardian angel will step in and prevent the tragedy or the accident or whatever other event that might cause our demise. And she says they do that in a number of ways. Initially, they'll send strong telepathic messages to the people to change their course of action, change what they're going to do to avoid the potential catastrophe. And if necessary, they will actually physically intervene and on our planet to prevent the accident. So she said, for example, if I was booked to fly on a plane that they could foresee was going to crash, they would start off by sending a strong message to me to get me to change my flight, to change my plans.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, and if that didn't work, they could actually take stronger measures, like make my tire go flat on the way to the airport, so I'd miss my plane.
Right.
And so that's just an example. She says so that, and sometimes they can appear physically to help us out when we're in dire straits to give us that sort of little added boost to get us over the hurdle we're facing. And she says most of the time people aren't aware of when we've basically saved them. And they just think, sometimes if they've had a close call, they think, I was just lucky to have missed that disaster. She says, it's never luck. It says it's your guardian angel helping you out. So that was really quite an amazing story. I felt really comforted to know that she was there watching over me. And of course, everyone on this planet has a guardian angel, and that's their job. So It was quite a fascinating discussion.
Oh, my goodness. Garnet, I have to have you back again. Garnet's latest book is called Dance of the Heavenly Bliss, and how can people find you and get your books?
Well, the best place is my website, which is garnetschulhauser.com. That's not easy to remember,
No.
so if people Google Dancing on a Stamp or Dance of Heavenly Bliss, they will get to my website.
Mm-hmm.
And there's information about all of my books. You can download a free excerpt, watch a book video, and I have buy links to all the popular online bookstores right there, Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble and a number of others. So you click on those links, you'll get right to the page where my books are featured, and you can buy them there. A lot of books, bricks and mortar stores have my books, and if your favorite store doesn't carry them, they can certainly order them for you. And so also on my website are links to all my social media sites like Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, where you can get information about me and what's happening in my life and the progress of my books. And my email address is on my website, Karen, and I'd love to hear comments or questions from your audience.
Yes, please. I want to hear what everybody says. This was fascinating. And if you have any closing words for our listeners, what would they be?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that a lot of the things that Albert showed me in my travels were sort of a bit distressing in the sense he was showing me sort of the state of affairs of our planet. He was basically hitting me over the head with a 2x4 to get me to shout out all the concerns that he had about what's happening with humanity. So a lot of it was distressing, but at the end of the day, he always said to me, don't take life so seriously. No matter what happens to you on this planet, you'll always end up back on the spirit side. You can never go wrong or become lost, so you should just enjoy your adventure, laugh lots, and smile at everyone you see, and then you'll just have a much more fulfilled journey as a human on our planet.
Wonderful. Again, Garnet's book is called Dance of the Heavenly Bliss. It was fascinating, and it was great having you on, and I'm going to have you on again, if that's okay.
I'd be delighted to come back again, Karen.
Perfect. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tune into the next Angel Quest show on Saturday, August 6th at the same time. My guest will be Jerry Gavin, author of If You Could Talk to an Angel, Angelic Answers to Questions on Life, Love, Purpose, and More. It's going to be a great show, so make sure to tune in then. You can visit me on my website at KarenNoe.com. And I'd like to end with a little quote from Garnet's book, Dance of the Heavenly Bliss. And here it is. Albert described our true home, the spirit side, as a wonderful place permeated with unconditional love, free from pain, suffering, and all negative emotions. It's like heaven described by many religions, a blissful place with many interesting challenges in the joyful pursuit of wisdom. Souls returning to the spirit side can choose to remain there indefinitely, return to earth for another incarnation, or incarnate into one of the countless other life forms in the universe. Our souls are on a never-ending trek of exploration and evolution, a delightful voyage with no finish line. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful weekend and angel blessings to you all.
I need a sign.